Well, okay, welcome back to Mixed Operations Part 2. And you can see I've got this lovely example sitting here with fractions within fractions. So first thing we're going to do, if we have to simplify this mess, we're going to get rid of the fractions within the fractions. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by something that's divisible by 3x, x squared, and 6x. So look at the numbers. You got a 3 and a 6. So the smallest number you're going to have to multiply by is 6. And then we have an x, two x's, and another x. So if I have x squared, that should do the trick. So let's see what happens here. We're going to have 6x squared times the 2 over 3x. And then I'm going to have 6x squared times the negative 7 over x squared. So, you know, if you're in any doubt, just write it out. You've got this guy times this stuff. Okay. And then you have minus the 6x squared times 7 over x squared. You know, just write it out so you can totally see what's going on. And on the bottom, well, I have 6x squared times the one and only term. So I can see the 6 here is going to cancel, and the 1x is going to cancel. So that leaves me the 5 and the x. So the bottom, not too bad. Just got to work out the top. So let's see what happens here. Well, one of these x's will cancel. Okay, let's get rid of that. It kind of turns into a star there. Anyway, it's got 1x left here, and 3 goes into the 6 twice. Okay, so I have 2 times x times 2, so that looks like 4x. Then I have minus, and here the x squareds both cancel, and I got 6 times 7, so 42, and on the bottom I have 5x. Now, if you wanted to, you could factor out a 2 out of the top, but there's nothing I can cancel with on the bottom, so I think I'm inclined to just leave it alone. So that's my first example all done. And now I'm going to mosey on to my last example, but I have saved the biggest, messiest for last. So let's just get right in here. We're going to have an x minus 2 divided by 4 minus, and another fraction within that fraction. Now, by the way, all of that is numerator. See what I mean? It's a mess. And then we got all this stuff over here. So how do you unravel? There's a fraction within a fraction within a fraction. Well, yes, where do I start? Well, let's start just focusing on this fraction here that's within this fraction. And then we'll deal with the rest of it later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a look at this and say, well, hey, why don't I just multiply top and bottom of this one fraction here by 3? And of course, the reason it's 3 is because it'll cancel with that 3 there. Now, that doesn't change the first x here. This is all happening only within this one fraction, right? So we're going to have, on the top, we're going to now have a 6. And then inside the fraction here, there's a 3 times the 4, so that's a 12. And then I have minus, and then the 3's cancel, and I have an x. Okay, and the bottom is still the bottom. No big change there. Okay, so everybody clear that what I've done is I kind of unraveled one fraction that was within this fraction. Now I'm going to take a look at this, and I have 2 fractions to worry about. So what I have to do now is continue on with getting rid of fractions here. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by. So what do I need to get rid of? Well, there's a 2x as a denominator. So each one has to have a 2x. And then I also want to get rid of this 12 minus x. So that's also part of what I'm multiplying by, top and bottom. Okay, so that should do the trick. So let's just walk through it very carefully. Here we have 2x times 12 minus x times the x over here. So what I'm going to do is just put the x with the 2x and make it 2x squared times the 12 minus x. Okay. Then I have minus, and so that's that minus there. And then the 12 minus x cancels. I'm left with 2x times 6. So that's going to be 12x. Okay. And all of that is on the top. On the bottom, I have 2x and 12 minus x times 6. So that's going to be a 12x times the 12 minus x. See, I'm not trying to do every step at once here. Just taking my time. And then on the next one here, the 2x cancels with this 2x. So it's going to be plus the 9, okay, this 9 here, times the remaining 12 minus x. So wow, we've got lots of stuff going on there. Okay, so the next thing I can do now, let's expand out everything and see if we got any like terms that go together. So this is going to be now 2x squared times 12. So that's 24x squared. And then 2x squared minus that x. So that's going to be minus 2x cubed. And then I got minus 12x. Okay, so there's the numerator, and none of these are like terms, so there's really not much I can do to simplify that down. I'll show you one thing I can do in a little while, but first let's clean up the bottom. So we're going to go 12x times 12, so that's 144 x's, and then 12x times negative x, so that's negative 12x squared. All right, now I've got 9 times 12, so that's plus 108. And finally, I've got 9 times negative x, so that's minus 9x. Okay. So what can I do? Yeah, let's see what we can do to simplify all this. There isn't much I can do really on the top, except I could take out a common factor. And I think the common factor we're looking at, there's more negatives than there are positives. So I'm going to factor out a negative 2x. So on the top, that's going to leave me with a negative 12x as well, right, to make positive 24x squared. Then I will need a positive x squared for the next term, and then the last one here is a positive 6. That's about as good as I can make it on the top. All right, let's see here. Next thing is the bottom. On the bottom, let's see, are there some like terms? There are. There's the 144x's and the negative 9x's. So I'm just going to put that in descending order, which means the highest exponent term first. Now I'm going to do the x term. So 144x's minus 9 is 135x's. Okay, and then lastly, I still have that plus 108. All right, so there's just one last thing to do. I'm not so sure how great it is. We're done with the top. Okay, and all I'm going to do is change this into descending order. So x squared minus 12x plus 6. Sometimes these things factor, but I'm not seeing any way to factor it. Factors of 6 that would add up to 12. I don't think so. And along the bottom, what could I factor out of this? Is there anything I can factor? Well, I looked at this ahead of time, and I think I can get a 3 out of there, and that's about it. So if I take out a 3, then I'll have the negative 4x squared. And it turns out 3 times 45 gives me that 135. And then at the end, that would be a positive 36. Okay. So that's about as good as I can do on this thing. There's no numbers here that I could cancel, and I don't even want to think about whether this factors. That's a little too much for me. So I think that's where I'm going to stop, and we'll come back with some more exciting stuff in a little while.